Hey Reddit! Before we dive in, just a quick note. This is our brand new channel, and we're working hard to bring you the most compelling stories. If you enjoy content like this, hit that subscribe button and help us hit our first 2,000 subscribers. Now, on to the story. Everything changed in an instant when I got the call. My son had collapsed during gym and was being taken to the emergency room. The world seemed to tilt sideways. I left work without a second thought and sped to the hospital, heart pounding. The doctor on the phone tried to explain, but I barely heard a word. My mind was already with my son. Liam, my 8-year-old, had suffered a seizure. No prior history. No warnings. Just one moment he was fine. The next he was convulsing on the gym floor in front of his classmates. When I arrived at the ER and saw him lying there with wires and monitors all around, I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. He looked so small, so fragile. I held his hand and tried not to fall apart. I sent a text to my immediate family, my parents and my sister Margaret. I kept it short. Liam's in the ER. Collapsed at school. I'm with him now. I expected a call. At least a message with some concern. They've always claimed to love their grandkids. I figured they'd show up. I truly believed they would. But no. 5 minutes later, I got a reply from my mom. We're tied up with Margaret. She needs us today. Hope Liam feels better soon. That was it. Margaret, my grown adult sister, who lives nearby and works part-time. What kind of emergency could she be having that outweighs a child in the hospital? It wasn't a crisis. I'd bet she needed help with something trivial. Maybe redecorating or reorganizing her bookshelves. I didn't reply. I just sat there, holding Liam's hand, trying not to let the tears come. He was pale and groggy, and I felt completely alone. A few hours passed. Then I got another message from my mom. This time, it was a photo of Margaret's freshly rearranged living room and a message that read, "Doesn't it look amazing? We helped her all day. She's been so stressed lately. Poor girl." I stared at it. I could feel something inside me snap. I showed the message to my wife, who's normally the calm, diplomatic one, and even she was livid. But the final straw came the next morning. Liam was stable, but the doctors were running tests. They suspected something neurological. We were terrified. I called my mom to update her. She answered cheerfully, like everything was totally normal. I explained what the doctors were doing. MRIs, blood work, the whole terrifying ordeal. And her response? "Oh, kids bounce back. Maybe he's faking it to skip school. You know how dramatic he can be." And then she laughed. She laughed. She laughed while my son was in a hospital bed, possibly facing a life-altering diagnosis. I ended the call. I couldn't say anything. I was shaking too hard. And here's something I haven't mentioned yet. For the past 7 years, I've been covering all my parents' expenses, not because they're broke, but because they never planned for the future. I've been paying their mortgage, their car, their utilities, quietly, every month, out of love. That love ended in the hospital. So I stopped. Mortgage, canceled. Car loan, phone bill, electric, water, all cut off. Not out of spite, but because they showed me exactly where I stood in their lives. When my dad's business went under, I stepped up without hesitation. I took on their mortgage. I paid off their car. I even helped settle and pay down their credit card debt. I never made a show of it. I never asked for anything in return. I just wanted to be a good son, someone they could rely on. But the day my mother laughed about my son's seizure, something inside me broke. That night, I went home, sat down at my computer, and logged into every account I was tied to. Their mortgage. I removed the automatic payments and notified the bank that I wouldn't be paying it anymore. Their car loan? I canceled the monthly transfers. Every credit card I had co-signed or helped consolidate. I cut ties, removed my liability, and walked away. I didn't send a message. I didn't give them a warning. I just stopped. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was my mother, in full-blown panic mode. Her card had been declined at the grocery store. Then she received a notification about a missed mortgage payment. She was frantic, demanding answers. I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her, "You made your choice. You picked Margaret's throw pillows and feng shui over your grandson in a hospital bed. You laughed at a child having a seizure. I'm done supporting people who can't show the bare minimum of empathy for my family." She cried. She shouted. She accused me of being heartless. She said they needed my help, and that Margaret was under so much stress lately. But I stayed calm. I reminded her that Margaret had never paid a single bill for them, never lifted a finger when they were struggling. Yet she was always the one who got their full attention and concern. And when my son needed them, silence, dismissiveness, mockery. So I told her flatly, "Maybe it's time you asked Margaret for help." She hung up, in tears. I haven't heard from them since. And the strange part? I thought I'd feel guilty, like I'd betrayed my parents. But I didn't. Not even a little. Liam was still going through tests. We were still talking to specialists, still waking up every day not knowing what the next scan or appointment would reveal. But I was channeling everything I had into the people who actually mattered. Into my son, into my wife, into us. And for a little while, I thought the storm had passed. But I was wrong, because just as I was beginning to breathe again, I got a phone call that flipped the entire situation on its head. It was my cousin Jenna. She sounded hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she should even be talking to me. But something was pressing on her, and she couldn't keep it in anymore. She said she'd heard bits and pieces about the blow-up with my parents and Margaret, and there was something I needed to know. Something big. Apparently, the day my mom claimed they were helping Margaret with her living room. That wasn't the full story. In truth, Margaret had just taken out a massive business loan. Using my father's name, she had convinced them, over several months, to help her finance a second boutique location. She played the part perfectly, stressed, overworked, on the edge of success if only she had a little more support. And my parents, ever the enablers of their favorite child, gave in. They co-signed everything, put what little credit they had on the line. So while I had been quietly covering their bills, keeping their lives afloat, they were funneling what they had left into Margaret's next big dream. All that time, I thought I was supporting people who couldn't stand on their own. Turns out, I was just freeing them up to bankroll Margaret again. And that's when I realized I wasn't just betrayed. I was being used. The fallout from that revelation? It's a whole other chapter. I was in shock. All this time, my parents let me believe they were barely scraping by. While I quietly covered thousands in bills, mortgage payments, car loans, credit card debts, they were secretly sinking what little financial stability they had into helping my sister open a boutique she wasn't even equipped to run. And when I reached out in the middle of a medical emergency, scared out of my mind about my son, their response was essentially, "Sorry, we're busy fluffing Margaret's throw pillows." But it didn't stop there. Jenna told me something else. Something that took the betrayal from painful to revolting. Apparently, Margaret had been downplaying everything behind my back, telling the extended family that Liam had just fainted, that I was exaggerating things for attention, that I was always dramatic, controlling, that I was throwing a fit because, for once, I wasn't the focus. That was it. The last straw. The final twist of the knife. A few days later, my dad showed up on my doorstep. No text, no call, just knocked on the door one evening like nothing had happened. My wife opened the door. When I saw him standing there, looking like a ghost of himself, I hesitated. I nearly closed it right in his face. He said he wanted to talk, that he missed Liam, that everything had spiraled out of control, and he wanted to make it right. I let him in, not because I was ready to forgive, but because I wanted to hear him say it out loud. And he did. He admitted they'd handled things badly, that Margaret had been relying on them for years, that they always saw her as the one who needed more support, while I was the strong one, the son who never asked for anything. And then he said the thing that made my blood boil. We didn't come to the hospital because we didn't want to get in the way. We thought you and your wife had it covered. And then, like it made anything better, Margaret's just very sensitive. She gets overwhelmed. I looked at him and said, "Your grandson was in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines, terrified. And you were picking out rugs with Margaret?" I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just told him what needed to be said. I don't want your help now. I don't want a guilt-ridden visit or some delayed regret. If you and Mom could turn your backs on my son when he needed love the most, then you don't get to play grandparents. He asked, "Are you really going to keep Liam away from us?" I said, "No. You already did that, the second you chose to be somewhere else." He left after that, looking like he'd aged a decade in a single evening. Since then, they've tried. A belated birthday card for Liam with a half-hearted gift card inside. A voicemail from my mom. Just a vague, "Hope he's doing okay." But it all feels too little too late. Just hollow efforts from people who only started reaching out once their financial safety net disappeared. As for Margaret, her second boutique closed just 3 weeks after opening. She couldn't cover rent, couldn't manage the team. From what I've heard, she's blaming everyone but herself. No apology, no explanation, not a single word to me. Honestly, that silence is the first gift she's ever given me. My wife and I had a long, honest conversation afterward. About boundaries, about what we wanted for our family, about the kind of people we'd allow in Liam's life. We made a decision. We moved, not across the country, but far enough to create space. Space from manipulation, from guilt, from a cycle we refuse to pass down to our son. A new home, a fresh chapter, a place where Liam can grow up surrounded by love that's real, not conditional. This entire experience taught me something that I wish I'd learned years ago. Being related to someone doesn't give them unlimited access to your life, especially if all they do is hurt you. Sometimes, being a good parent means doing the hard thing. Cutting ties with people you once thought were your foundation. Because once you see someone for who they really are, once they show you, you can't unsee it. I chose my son. I chose peace. And I don't regret it for a second.